Most people read the headlines. I read the small print. This is Footnotes, where I find the biggest stories in the smallest detail. We all think we know the icons of history. We see their names etched in stone, their brands plastered on billboards, and their legacies cemented in the archives of human achievement. But the truth is, we usually only know the polished version, the version that made it into the history books. Today, we look at the final page of a story about a man who was flatly told that he had absolutely no future in art. Let's step back in time to the early 1920s. Imagine a young, ambitious man working at a newspaper in Kansas City. He's got big dreams, but his boss doesn't see them. In fact, his editor fires him, stating blatantly that the young man lacked imagination and had no good ideas. Can you imagine being told by the experts of your day that your mind is a barren wasteland of creativity? But he didn't stop there. He gathered what little money he could scrape together and tried to start his own little animation film studio called Laugh-O-Gram. It was a bold move. It was also a disaster. In less than a year, the studio went completely bankrupt. This wasn't just a corporate failure. It was a deeply personal, crushing poverty. He was so broke that he was reportedly living in his own dilapidated office. His main source of sustenance? Eating cold beans straight out of the tin can, wondering where his next dime would come from. He was a failure by every measurable metric of the Roaring Twenties. With his pockets empty but his head still stubborn, he decided to leave the Midwest behind. He bought a one-way ticket to Hollywood. He arrived in California with nothing but a single battered suitcase, a few cheap drawing materials, and a cartoon character he had helped create, a rabbit named Oswald. But the gut punches weren't over yet. Through a series of brutal legal loopholes and bad contracts, he discovered that his distributor had stolen the rights to Oswald right out from under him. Most of his animation staff abandoned him, too. He was entirely alone, riding a train back from a disastrous business meeting in New York, staring out the window at the bleak passing landscape. Everything was gone, his studio, his money, and even his characters. But as the train wheels clacked against the track, he pulled out a sketchbook. Out of the ashes of his despair, his pencil began to move. He didn't draw a grand hero or a fierce creature. Instead, he sketched a small, round-eared rodent, a mouse. Initially, he wanted to give this little creature a grand, sophisticated name, Mortimer. But as he showed the sketch to his wife, Lillian, she shook her head. She told him that the name sounded entirely too pompous, too stiff for a creature meant to bring joy. She suggested something simpler, something friendlier. She suggested Mickey. That unimaginative man standing on the precipice of total ruin was Walt Disney. And that hurried train ride sketch, of course, was Mickey Mouse. It's easy to look at the multi-billion-dollar empire today and think it was all inevitable. But it wasn't. It hung on the thread of a man who refused to believe his critics. I'm Brenda, and I leave you with this question to ponder today. Can you imagine what the world would look like if Walt had let himself become a forgotten footnote just because he chose to believe what other people thought about him? Don't let someone else write your final page.